Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
The moment Mason pushed open the bedroom door, his heart stopped. The laughter from moments ago had turned into frozen stares. Regina, tangled in the sheets with a stranger, choked out, "Mason, it's not what it looks like." But it was. Her whispered words, still fresh in his ears. "He's at the hospital all night," replayed in his mind. His chest tightened as reality slammed into him. After saving lives all day, his own had just crumbled. Mason tugged off his surgical mask, blinking under the fluorescent hospital lights. Another 16-hour shift behind him, a grueling day in oncology, assisting a complicated procedure. He was beyond exhausted. The car ride home was a blur of taillights and yawns, half his mind on the warm bed he hoped to collapse into. He parked outside his suburban home near Burlington, Massachusetts' white picket fence, neat lawn, a place that once symbolized security. The clock on the dashboard read 1:17 a.m. Weirdly, his wife Regina's car was in the driveway. She told him she would be at a pharmaceutical summit for a couple of days, so why was her sedan parked here at this hour? Mason felt a flicker of disquiet. Regina was a mid-level exec at a pharmaceutical firm, traveling often. Usually she'd mention if plans changed. Could she have come home early to surprise him? Perhaps. He shook off the fatigue, stepping onto the porch. The front door was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness behind it. His heart jumped. This was not normal. Gently pushing the door open, he entered the house. The lights were off except for a faint glow upstairs. He heard muffled voices, low laughter. Adrenaline spiked, chasing away his tiredness. He ascended the stairs slowly. The voices grew clearer, a man's murmur, Regina's soft giggle. The hair on Mason's neck rose. He approached the master bedroom, their bedroom. The door was half closed, a line of dim light spilling into the hallway. From inside, a hush, a gasp. "He might be at the hospital all night, no big deal." That was Regina's whisper. Mason's chest pounded. Without further thought, he shoved the door open. The scene inside slammed into his consciousness. Regina, half naked, tangled in sheets, next to a man similarly disrobed. They both froze, eyes wide in shock. The man scrambled upright, trying to grab his clothes. Regina let out a choked cry, pulling the blanket over her body. The man, a stranger to Mason, had short, dark hair, a toned build. He fumbled. I gotta go," and bolted, practically tripping over his pants, nearly shoving past Mason. Mason was too stunned to even grab him. He just stared at Regina. She stammered, "Mason, it's not what it looks like. I can explain. I'm sorry." Her words tumbled together. A cold rage and heartbreak coalesced in Mason's chest. After a crushing day of saving lives, this was his reward? He felt the edges of his vision pulse with an almost surreal calm. "Explain?" His voice came out hoarse. "Regina, you told me you were out of state. Who the hell was that?" She clutched the blanket, tears forming. He's just a colleague from the pharma side. We had a few drinks. It got out of hand. You were never home. You're always at the hospital." Mason set his jaw, bitterness and betrayal slicing through him. "So, this is how you handle loneliness? By screwing a co-worker in our bed?" She started sobbing, pleading, "I'm sorry, please. It was a mistake. I'm so stressed he was comforting me. You're always gone." He raised a trembling hand, cutting her off. He needed a moment. The image of her, naked with that man, burned in his mind. He'd never felt such raw betrayal. "I can't deal with this right now," he muttered, stepping back. "Get dressed, and we'll talk tomorrow." He turned and left, stumbling down the stairs. He heard Regina sobbing behind him, calling his name. He didn't stop. In the living room, He sank onto the couch, head in his hands, hearing the man's footsteps fleeing out the front door. The entire world felt surreal, like a scalpel slicing through all illusions. Sleep was impossible. The heartbreak merged with anger, forming an iron resolve in his gut. The immediate discovery of Regina's affair, no build-up, no suspicion, a direct shock. Mason's entire life changed in an instant. Morning sunlight found Mason still on the couch, his body stiff from half-sleep, mind racing all night. He heard Regina's footsteps upstairs. She hadn't dared come down. His phone buzzed. A text from Kiara, his mother, noticing he hadn't replied to her usual nightly check-in. She always tried to check on her children, though Mason was 34. He texted a brief, "Rough night, we'll call you later." He stared at the framed wedding photo on the mantel, him in a crisp tux, Regina radiant in her lace gown. Her eyes sparkled with the vow, no matter what. He felt nauseated. How did we get here so fast? Regina descended the stairs slowly. She wore a robe, face puffy from crying. The tension in the air was suffocating. She approached him, voice trembling. "Mason, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I messed up." He stared at her, silent for a long moment. Then, in a controlled tone, "Who is he?" She swallowed hard. "Travis. He's from marketing. We've been well. It started as just flirting. I was lonely, you're always at the hospital, then it escalated." He clenched his fists on his thighs. "You lied to me about the pharma summit, just to bring him here." She closed her eyes. "I did. I was drunk, he offered to come over, we got carried away. Mason, please. It was a one-time slip." "You said that, but you keep referencing loneliness as an excuse." "This doesn't happen overnight," he replied, voice cold. "Anyway, I need space to figure out how to handle this. Are you planning to continue seeing him?" She gasped. "No, oh God, no, I swear I'll end it." He shook his head, bitterness roiling. "What's undone is undone. Ending it doesn't fix anything. I can't just forget walking in on that." She sobbed quietly, collapsing onto a chair. "I do love you, Mason, please. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything." Mason exhaled, recalling the look of terror on that Travis's face. The entire scene was etched in his mind. "I can't talk about it now," he said wearily, standing. "I have a shift soon. We'll talk later." She nodded, tears streaming, not daring to follow. Mason grabbed a fresh suit from the closet, ignoring the bed's disheveled sheets, that wretched image hammered in his brain. He left the house, a swirl of heartbreak and fury guiding him. Driving to the hospital, he almost crashed a red light, lost in thought. "I can't let emotion sabotage my job. My patients need me." By the time he reached the parking deck, he'd forced a semblance of composure. Before heading in, he texted his father, Derek. "Need to speak to you about a personal issue. Are you free?" Derek was a controlling, old-school figure, never overly warm. But Mason was desperate for some paternal anchor, naive enough to think maybe he'd care. Derek responded quickly, "Busy, but if you must, call in 10. Sighing, Mason dialed him. The phone rang, then Derek's terse voice. "Yes, son. Make it quick. I have a meeting." Mason's voice shook slightly. "Dad, Regina cheated on me. I found her with another man. I'm reeling. I needed to tell you." A pause. Then Derek's tone was disturbingly dismissive. "You're a big boy, Mason. Women do this sometimes. Move on. You think you're the first husband to find his wife in bed with another man? Grow a spine." Mason's breath caught. "She lied, Dad. She betrayed me. Are you not hearing me?" Derek let out a bored sigh. "Look, if she's stepping out, Maybe it's your fault for working too much. And if you can't handle it, divorce her. But don't expect sympathy from me. Derek's shockingly callous response, rather than fatherly support, stuns Mason. Mason stared at the phone, anger boiling. Fine. Sorry to bother you. He ended the call. The tears he might have shed turned to a scorching resolve. No help from that corner. He realized how alone he was. He stuffed the phone in his pocket, marched into the hospital, determined to bury the heartbreak with work, but also with the seed of a plan forming. That afternoon, between seeing patients, Mason saw a flurry of texts from Regina. Mason, I'm sorry, I love you. We can fix this, please believe me. Don't ignore me. We have to talk tonight. He shoved his phone aside. Now she's desperate. Good. Let her sweat. He wasn't about to grant her any easy forgiveness. At day's end, Kiara, Mason's mother, called, voice gentle. Son, I sense something's really wrong. You texted me you had a rough night. Are you okay? Mason hesitated, not wanting to share the messy details. But Kiara had always been kinder than Derek. He softly admitted, Regina cheated. I found her in our bed with a guy. I'm struggling, Mom. Kiara gasped. Oh, my sweet boy. I'm so sorry. I can't believe she'd do that. Are you safe? Do you need me there? He felt tears threaten. I'm okay. Just lost. Dad was no help. Kiara's voice wavered. Derek never handles these emotional things well, but Mason, you must stay strong. If you decide to divorce or fight, I'll stand by you. He thanked her quietly. A pang of confusion flickered. Kiara's marriage to Derek was never loving. She might understand betrayal, but he set that aside, focusing on the immediate drama. That night, returning home, Mason found Regina seated stiffly in the living room. A table had 2 place settings, an untouched dinner. She rose anxiously. Let's talk. He tossed his keys on the counter, crossing arms. Fine. Talk. She inhaled, tears brimming. Mason, I swear, I never wanted to break us. We've been drifting. You're always in surgery or consult. Travis was a stupid fling, but it's over. He stared coldly. And I'm supposed to just forget seeing him half naked in my bed? You lied about the business trip, Regina. That's not a fling, that's premeditated betrayal. She trembled. I'll do therapy, anything. Please, let's salvage this. Mason, though pained, does not show a typical heartbreak meltdown. He remains icily calm. You want therapy? You want to fix this? We'll see. But right now, I want you to sleep in the guest room. I can't stand you near me. She nodded, tears spilling. I'll do it. Just don't leave me. I'll prove I can be faithful. When she retreated, Mason stared after her, mind racing. She claimed it was a single fling, but something about her frantic tone suggested hidden layers. Why was she so quick to blame him for always being at the hospital? Did she have other reasons? Could there be more men? He decided to quietly hire a private investigator. He wanted phone records, possible prior affairs. She might be lying about the scale of her cheating. After all, that man, Travis, might just be the tip of an iceberg. Mason was no fool. If there was more to unravel, he'd find it. Late that night, Mason sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the prenuptial agreement he'd signed 3 years ago at Regina's urging. She was from a well-off family, sure, but it wasn't just money. The contract specifically stated, no childbearing for the first 5 years or entire spousal benefits shift drastically. The memory of that conversation stung. He'd yearned for kids, but Regina and her parents were adamant that children would hamper her career and lifestyle. Mason realized something else. If she was cheating, maybe her endgame was to eventually toss him aside, knowing he had no leverage because of that clause. Or maybe her family had a bigger plan. He resolved to check with a lawyer soon, to see if the infidelity could void that clause. I want kids someday, he thought bitterly. Not with her, but I won't let her keep me from fatherhood forever. Days passed in tense silence. Regina tried to resume normal routines, cooking dinner once, offering half-hearted small talk. Mason gave her minimal responses, fueling her anxiety. He was polite, but distant. No sign of meltdown or forgiveness. Inside, he was plotting. At the hospital, a colleague commented on Mason's newly intense focus in the OR. He'd always been a good surgeon, but now he performed each procedure with a sharp edge of determination, as if to channel personal rage into professional excellence. He needed that sense of control. One evening, after a particularly draining double shift, Mason found Regina asleep in the guest room. He lingered at the door, studying her face in the moonlight. She was the woman he once adored, shared dreams with. Now she was the catalyst for his greatest heartbreak. Yet in that heartbreak, he discovered a new ferocity. I won't be the naive husband you can walk over, he thought. She had no clue how relentlessly he'd pursue the truth and how far he'd push for retribution. Stepping away, he quietly closed the door, a steely vow forming. She wants me to just forgive and forget? No. She and that affair partner, maybe others will see what happens when you betray a man with both surgical precision and unstoppable resolve. In a small, discreet office near downtown, Mason shook hands with Grant, a seasoned PI recommended by one of Mason's old med school acquaintances. Grant's lined face hinted at years of surveillance work. Doc, I handle infidelity cases all the time, but you suspect more than a simple fling? Mason nodded. Yes. I suspect Regina's affair might not be isolated. I also want phone records, potential bank transfers, anything that might show if she's plotting something larger. She's from a wealthy background. I want no surprises. Grant scribbled notes. Understood. I'll track her communications, tail her if needed. Any specific times you suspect she meets the lover? Mason recounted the day she was at a pharma summit, also shared the man's name, Travis, and approximate details. They arranged a plan, Grant explaining fees. Mason didn't care about cost. He needed rock-solid proof. I am a man of evidence, he mused. In the OR, we rely on data, scans, test results. This is no different just personal surgery on my marriage. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mason's personal stress occasionally showed. He was snappier with interns, more aloof with staff. His friend, Dr. Lindsay Alvarez, asked him directly, Mason, what's going on at home? You're looking like you're carrying the world's burdens. He hesitated. Dr. Alvarez was a trustworthy colleague, but also a known talker. Still, he gave a partial truth. I discovered Regina cheated. We're not in a good place. Dr. Alvarez's eyes widened sympathetically. I'm so sorry, man. That's heavy. If you need help or a lawyer recommendation, let me know. Mason nodded, grateful for the emotional support but not ready to reveal his revenge plans. He must stay cautious. No need to tip off Regina if word spread. At home, Regina tried cooking fancy dinners, pasta primavera, grilled salmon, all reminiscent of the early dating days. She'd greet him with a forced smile, wearing slightly revealing outfits, as if seduction might erase her betrayal. Mason responded politely. Thanks for dinner, but no real warmth. He always ended the night on the living room couch or let her remain in the guest room. She pouted. When will you come back to our bedroom? He gave a clipped, not sure? His calm refusal made her anxious. She possibly expected him to blow up in a fury so she could manipulate his guilt. Instead, his cold composure kept her off balance. One evening, Derek unexpectedly visited. Mason answered the door to see his father's stern face. Derek brushed past. Let's talk. In the living room, Regina hovered, uncertain. Derek eyed Mason with mild contempt. I heard from your mother that you're all worked up about Regina's affair. You're letting personal drama affect your hospital performance? Mason's jaw set. My job performance is fine, but I won't just ignore that Regina cheated. Derek scoffed. Infidelity happens, boy. If you want to keep your marriage, be a man and move on. If you want to end it, do so quickly. Don't whine. He threw a glance at Regina. And you, stop messing around. You're embarrassing us all. This stark lack of empathy hammered Mason's sense of betrayal further. Did Derek always treat love as a transaction? Possibly. Regina bit her lip, silent. Derek left with a dismissive wave. The tension soared. That night, Mason rummaged through old boxes, feeling a need to recall simpler times. He found a battered scrapbook from his teenage years, photos of him at a state science fair, trophies from debate club. In each photo, Kiara was smiling at his side, but Derek was often absent or bored-looking. Mason realized how little paternal affection he'd truly received. He recalled half-buried memories. Derek belittling his desire to become a doctor, pushing him to do corporate finance instead. Mason rebelled, forging his own path in medicine. Now, ironically, Derek was acting like the affair was a trivial matter. No wonder he's unsupportive, Mason mused. He never believed in genuine emotional bonds anyway. Regina's parents lived out of state but had occasionally meddled in their marriage. They once insisted on controlling the wedding budget, pushing for a prenup. Now, they texted Mason. We heard rumors you and Regina are having a spat. Should we come visit to sort this out? Mason politely declined, refusing to let them manipulate the narrative. He wasn't about to present them with half the story. They might side with Regina automatically. Grant, the P. I called. Doc, I've followed her for a few days. Regina's met Travis again, once at a coffee shop, once at a motel. She's definitely not ended it. Mason's gut tightened. Regina had lied again, claiming it was over. Get photos, times, any details, he said, voice low. The confirmation stung, but also validated his suspicion. I want everything. I plan to drop this on her like a bombshell, Grant added. I also see some weird phone calls between Regina and your father, Derek. Might be nothing but odd to have that many direct calls. Any reason they'd chat behind your back? Mason's heart lurched. Why would Regina be in contact with Derek so frequently? Could Derek be orchestrating something? Could there be hush money or a deeper conspiracy? He told Grant to keep monitoring it. Around the same time, Mason visited a discreet family attorney, Ms. Zimmerman, recommended by Dr. Alvarez. In her tidy office, Ms. Zimmerman listened to the short version. The adultery, the suspicious phone calls, the possibility of an elaborate setup. She scanned the prenuptial agreement he provided. This clause limiting you from fathering children for 5 years is unusual, Ms. Zimmerman mused. Potentially enforceable, but if we prove the entire marriage was entered under manipulative or bad faith grounds, we might challenge it. Mason nodded. I want to ensure if we divorce, I'm not left with nothing. I also want freedom to have kids eventually. Regina's betrayal might nullify aspects of this contract, correct? Ms. Zimmerman confirmed that in Massachusetts, proven adultery can heavily influence outcomes, especially if other collusion is found. Ms. Zimmerman hypothesized that perhaps Regina and Derek were ensuring Mason stayed childless, so any potential inheritance or family-labeled property couldn't be complicated by future offspring. Mason shuddered at the notion that his father might want to keep him sterile for some twisted reason. The puzzle was coming together. Kiara visited Mason one afternoon, noticing he looked hollow-eyed. She gently patted his arm. "I'm sorry about Regina. You deserve better." Mason felt an odd lump in his throat, wanting maternal comfort. "Mom, Dad basically told me to deal with it like it's normal." Kiara's gaze flickered with sadness. Derek never believed in love or loyalty. He only values controlling people. Maybe Regina learned that from him. She hesitated, then said, "There's more I wish I could tell you, but I can't, not yet." He frowned. "Mom, you can talk to me. I need the truth." She looked haunted, shaking her head. "I'm sorry, Mason. I'm afraid." Then she left, leaving him with swirling questions. Afraid of what? Is there a bigger secret? Late that night, Mason stared out the window, phone in hand. The PI had texted more evidence. Regina was still sneaking around with Travis. She'd lied to his face about ending it. On top of that, suspicious calls with Derek. The betrayal cut deeper than just an affair. It reeked of an agenda to keep him under their thumb. He texted Ms. Zimmerman, "We proceed. I want to consider filing soon. Let me gather a bit more proof." Then he tossed the phone aside, eyes blazing. He was done playing the naive, overworked doctor. He'd strike back with methodical precision, exposing every lie. The unstoppable dawn of his revenge was near. The next morning, Mason donned his lab coat, forced a professional smile, and headed to the hospital. No matter his personal war, he had patients to serve stage 3 and IV cancer patients counting on him. He did rounds with unwavering focus, trying to keep Regina's betrayal from clouding his medical judgment. Midway through, Dr. Alvarez cornered him in the corridor, noticing the tension lines on his face. "Hey, I heard from Nurse Freya that you snapped at a resident earlier. Everything okay?" Mason exhaled. "Sorry. I'm dealing with major personal drama, but I'll keep it in check." Dr. Alvarez patted his shoulder. "If you ever want an ear or a mediator, let me know." Mason mustered a grateful nod, but said nothing more. Meanwhile, a rumor circulated that Mason might be forced to step down from a major surgical committee if his domestic issues exploded into scandal. Possibly Derek or Regina was behind these rumors, testing the waters. Mason gritted his teeth, refusing to yield. At home that evening, Regina displayed an unsettling calm. She prepared dinner wearing a tight black dress. "I want to talk about us," she said in a near-sultry tone. Mason arched an eyebrow. "Us? Are you done sleeping with Travis?" She flinched, but tried a flirtatious smile. "Yes, I ended it. Let's not dwell on that. We can start fresh." She reached for his hand. He recoiled slightly, anger sparking. "You think a forced dinner and cleavage will fix your betrayal?" Her eyes flashed frustration. "Mason, I said I ended it. Don't you trust me at all?" "Why should I? You lied multiple times." He stepped back. "If you truly ended it, prove it. Show me your phone, your messages. Show me you're done." She bristled, hand tightening on her phone. "That's private. You can't see my personal calls." He let out a harsh laugh. "So you're still hiding? Good to know." He grabbed an apple from the counter instead of her dinner. "I have no appetite for your illusions." He stormed off, leaving her cursing under her breath. Late that night, Mason took a call from Grant, the PI. "Doc, I've uncovered something bigger. Not only does Regina keep seeing Travis, but there's also evidence of significant money transfers from an account linked to your father, Derek, into Regina's personal account. She's receiving monthly sums in the thousands." Mason's pulse sped. "You're sure it's from Derek?" "Absolutely. We traced the routing. She's either blackmailing him or cooperating in some plan. Also, we have phone transcripts referencing keeping Mason in line. This is deeper than I expected." Mason's fists clenched. So my father is paying Regina for what, spying on me, sabotaging me? I'll need more clarity. Grant promised more details soon. Mason ended the call, adrenaline spiking. So that's why she's so brazen. She might be funded by Derek for an unknown scheme. The suspicion about a bigger conspiracy kept intensifying. Unable to rest, Mason tracked down Travis after gleaning his address from a background check Ms. Zimmerman helped arrange. Late at night, he drove across town to a modest apartment complex. He pounded on the door. Travis opened, eyes widening with fear. "Dr. Mason, what are you doing here?" Mason's voice was cold. "You're sleeping with my wife. Let me in." Travis stammered, stepping aside. The living room was cluttered, leftover pizza boxes, a half-empty whiskey bottle. He looked tense, sweaty. "I'm not here to brawl," Mason said. "I want answers. Is Regina truly your lover, or are you both pawns of something else?" Travis gulped. "Look, man, I didn't plan this. She approached me. She said she was lonely. You were never around. We hooked up a couple times. Then, weirdly, your father started telling me to keep it up, or he'd ruin me. I'm a pharmaceutical rep. We rely on your father's connections. I felt forced." Mason's stomach churned. So, Derek was meddling intimately. "Why the hell would my father push you to sleep with my wife?" Travis shook his head. "I overheard him telling Regina that if she keeps you off balance, you'll stay too busy to challenge some bigger plan. I don't know the details, something about your family inheritance or your potential career moves. They want you stuck." Mason's hands trembled with rage. This was no mere affair. Derek orchestrated it to sabotage him. "You're a coward," Mason spat. "You let them use you?" Travis nodded miserably. "I had no choice. Derek threatened to blacklist me from major pharma accounts if I refused. He's powerful." Mason turned to leave, his voice low with disgust. "You disgust me, but thanks for clarifying. Don't go near Regina again or I'll end you." Travis nodded frantically. Mason walked out, mind reeling. Now everything fit. Derek was funneling money to Regina, effectively paying her to maintain an affair or at least keep Mason psychologically destabilized. The reason? Possibly to block Mason from discovering bigger truths, maybe a scammed inheritance, or ensuring Mason doesn't produce an heir to complicate family finances. Mason returned home near dawn, quietly entering. Regina was asleep in the guest room. He stared at her closed door, a swirl of hate and heartbreak roiling. Then he retreated to the living room couch, drafting a plan with Ms. Zimmerman in mind, documenting Travis's confession. Next day, Kiara visited again, unexpectedly trembling. "Mason, I need to tell you something," she said breathlessly. "It concerns your father, or rather, the man who raised you as father. I can't keep silent anymore." Mason guided her to sit. She looked pale. "Derek is not your biological father. He forced me to marry him after I got pregnant with you by another man, someone I truly loved, but who disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Derek arranged for me to have no contact. He wanted to raise you as if you were his, but deep down he resented that you're not his blood." Mason's mind reeled. "So that's why he's always been cold. Jesus, Mom, why didn't you tell me earlier?" She sobbed. "I was afraid. Derek is ruthless. He threatened me. But I see he's hurting you, orchestrating all this, using Regina. I can't watch in silence anymore." He felt a savage clarity. "So I'm not even his real son. This entire family dynamic is built on lies." "It all makes sense now," he muttered. "He never wanted me to have kids or rise too far. He just wanted control." Kiara nodded tearfully. "I'm so sorry, Mason. I hope you can forgive me for not telling you sooner." Armed with this knowledge, Mason called Ms. Zimmerman. She was stunned by the additional revelations. If Derek and Regina conspired to sabotage your marriage, we might have a criminal conspiracy on top of adultery. And this parentage secret could factor in if they used it to manipulate you. Mason, posture firm, responded, I want to end this entire charade. We push forward with a divorce from Regina on grounds of adultery and possible collusion with my father. We collect every piece of evidence. Then, if it's proven they threaten me, we can file civil suits for emotional distress, sabotage, whatever else we can. We'll need airtight documentation, Ms. Zimmerman advised. Travis's statement, phone logs, your mother's testimony about Derek's threats. This could blow up big, but we can protect you. Let's do it carefully. That evening, Regina found Mason calmly sitting at the dining table with documents laid out. She asked uncertainly, What is all this? He gestured to a seat. Sit. We need an honest conversation. No more lies. She hesitantly complied. He began. I know about Travis, the hush money from my father, your calls. I know this is bigger than an affair. You're actively working with Derek to keep me pinned. Her face blanched. Mason, He pressed on. I also discovered Derek is not my real father. That's not your doing, but your part is obvious. So here's the deal. I'm filing for divorce, citing adultery and collusion. My lawyer has everything. Unless you want public scandal, you'll sign an agreement leaving me with my assets, and you vanish quietly. Regina's eyes filled with tears and anger. You can't prove I took hush money. You have no idea. Mason cut her off, sliding a folder across. Bank statements, phone call recordings, Travis's confession. The Piazza Eye is thorough. If I go public, your reputation at the pharma firm is ruined, possibly criminal charges if we prove conspiracy. She trembled, tears streaking. Derek forced me to. He told me if I kept you docile, he'd pay off my student loans, elevate me in the company. I was trapped. I'm sorry, Mason, but I also did resent you for ignoring me so often. This was my twisted solution. He stared coldly. You expect pity? You use my father's money to cheat on me under my own roof, playing me for a fool? Pity? No. She sobbed, burying her face in her hands. What do you want from me now? Mason's voice turned to steel. Sign the divorce settlement Ms. Zimmerman drafts. Admit your wrongdoing. Then get out. If you fight me, I'll release everything to the press. You and Derek can go down together. She nodded brokenly, seeing no escape. The once haughty Regina was reduced to tears, cornered by a man she thought too busy or naive to fight back. The next morning, Derek called Mason in a rage. What the hell are you doing threatening Regina with lawsuits? I forbid you from divorcing her. You'll follow my instructions or face consequences. Mason snorted. You're in no position to forbid anything. I know about your hush payments. I know you orchestrated Regina's affair. That's low even for you, father, or should I say, not father. Silence. Then Derek hissed. You ungrateful bastard. Kiara told you? So be it. You think you can dethrone me? I have powerful contacts. I can ruin your hospital career, spread rumors about malpractice. Mason's lips curled in a humorless smile. Try me. I'm well respected among peers, and if you push, I'll release the evidence of your corruption. Don't doubt that I have the means to protect myself. He hung up, adrenaline surging. The lines were drawn. Derek threatened total war. So be it. Standing in the hospital corridor after that call, Mason inhaled deeply, scanning the bustling staff. He was no meek victim. He was a talented oncologist with strong professional backing and now had the evidence to crush those who conspired against him. Regina had crumbled under revelations. Derek was raging, but cornered. The next step was to finalize the legal strike, possibly unveiling the entire fiasco if they dared resist. Mason strode off, mind ablaze with the next moves. The betrayal that once crippled him now fueled him to uproot every lie. A week later, Ms. Zimmerman quietly filed a petition for divorce in the local court, citing Regina's adultery, detailing the hush money, referencing potential blackmail from Derek. The petition requested the judge to consider the prenuptial invalid due to fraud and conspiracy. She also prepared a sealed affidavit from Travis confirming how Derek coerced him to seduce Regina or encourage the affair. Mason read the final draft in Ms. Zimmerman's office. "It's strong," she said, "but be ready for a vicious counterattack from your father." Mason nodded, steel in his eyes. "I'm ready." That day, the court served Regina the divorce papers. She reportedly broke down at her office, humiliating meltdown in front of co-workers. Meanwhile, Ms. Zimmerman mailed a formal notice to Derek, warning him not to interfere or risk civil lawsuits. As predicted, Derek called Mason in a volcanic rage. "You dare drag me into your petty marital spat?" "I have high-level judges in my pocket. You'll regret this." Mason calmly answered, "We'll see who regrets. I have everything documented. If you want to escalate, we can go public about your hush money to Regina, your threats, the forced marriage from my mother, everything. Let's see how your friends in high places like that scandal." Derek spat curses and hung up. Mason exhaled, a tremor of both fear and satisfaction. He was staring down a powerful man, but no turning back now. Regina's parents flew in. They arrived at the house while Mason was packing a few personal items. Her mother, Helen, and father, Stanley, both wore anxious expressions. They cornered Mason. Helen pleaded, "Mason, is it true you're divorcing Regina over some silly affair? People make mistakes. Why not reconcile?" Stanley added, "We'll pay for counseling. Don't let scandal ruin your life." Mason smirked darkly. "She lied, cheated, and colluded with my father to sabotage me. This is no small mistake. I want out." Helen stammered, "But she loves you. The affair was maybe she was seduced. We can fix it." He shook his head. "With respect, you two don't grasp the level of betrayal. I've made my decision. Please don't intervene." They tried more persuading, but Mason refused, stepping around them. They seemed genuinely unaware of the deeper scheme. He pitied them for a moment, but only for a moment. They left, dejected, realizing Mason was steadfast. Amid the legal battles, Mason's work at the hospital soared in complexity. He was spearheading a new clinical trial for an experimental cancer therapy. The press sniffed around, since any personal scandal could overshadow medical breakthroughs. Ms. Zimmerman advised him to keep a low profile, not fueling tabloids if the story leaked. He spent 14 hours a day in labs, ensuring data integrity, comforting anxious patients. This ironically boosted his reputation as a dedicated physician, though inside, he was fighting exhaustion and heartbreak. The hospital board admired his composure under personal stress. If only they knew the full extent, he mused grimly. One evening, Mason returned to find Regina in tears on the living room couch. The served divorce papers lay scattered. She looked up, eyes red. "I can't believe you're actually divorcing me. I thought we could fix us." He sighed, staying by the doorway. "You're still lying about the extent of your betrayal. Or do you admit you took money from Derek to keep me from investigating family matters?" She wailed. "Yes, I took it. I was scared of him. He wanted me to keep you distracted. Yes. But I told him I wouldn't, if you just gave me more attention. Then he threatened me. I caved." She spilled that Derek wanted to ensure Mason never discovered some family secrets. And if Mason tried to conceive a child, Regina was to sabotage it with hidden birth control, or if necessary, claim an accidental miscarriage. Mason's stomach churned in revulsion. You're telling me you were complicit in a scheme to keep me from fatherhood and sabotage me psychologically? That's monstrous. She wept. I know. I was desperate. I fell for his manipulative promises, and then Travis, I made a stupid choice, but it was also part of the pressure. Mason's fury spiked. Yet, you did it anyway. So now, deal with the consequences. I have no pity left. He left her sobbing, locking himself in the bedroom. His heart hammered with the final confirmation that they systematically used him. No second chances, he vowed. At the hospital, a new nurse named Talia started in oncology. She was warm, empathic, recognized the sadness behind Mason's professional facade. Over lunch in the cafeteria, she softly observed, Dr. Mason, you seem burdened. I know we just met, but if you need a friend, I'm here. He was touched by her kindness, reminiscent of how a supportive partner might be. But with Blair out there, the produce supplier, is he mixing relationships? Actually, we had not introduced Blair in this version. The user said we could add characters. Let's keep Talia as a friend or potential mild interest, but not overshadowing the main storyline. He forced a small smile. Thank you, Talia. Right now, my personal life is complicated, but I appreciate your concern. She gave a gentle nod. Take care of yourself, Doc. Her sincerity reminded him that there are kind souls, a stark contrast to Regina's manipulations. Grant, the PI, delivered final recordings. Phone calls between Regina and Derek, referencing sums of money, references to ensuring Mason remains childless for the family's stability. In one snippet, Derek said, If he divorces you, at least we'll label him incompetent, plant some malpractice rumors, but keep him chasing his own tail. That cold voice reeked of arrogance. Mason's rage flared anew, hearing Derek's scornful tone. Ms. Zimmerman was thrilled. This is the smoking gun. Not only do we have adultery, but an organized campaign to harm your professional standing. She prepared to file an injunction to block Derek from any defamation attempts. Sure enough, Derek tried to spread rumors in back channels that Mason had botched a surgery leading to patient death. Ms. Zimmerman fired back with a defamation complaint, brandishing proof of the patient's actual data. Derek retreated momentarily, but threatened bigger moves. One night, Mason received an unmarked envelope with photos of him with Talia in the hospital cafeteria, plus a typed note. 2 can play the scandal game. He realized Derek or Regina might attempt to spin a new affair angle. He was unshaken. Talia was just a concerned co-worker, not a lover. Let them try. Over time, it became clear Regina was cornered. She met with Ms. Zimmerman in a tense negotiation. Realizing her minimal chance of winning in court, Regina caved to a settlement. She'd accept the divorce, forfeit large claims on Mason's assets, and sign a statement acknowledging her collusion with Derek. In exchange, Mason wouldn't press criminal charges if possible. Ms. Zimmerman was triumphant. Mason merely nodded, feeling no triumph, only the bitter closure of that marriage. In the settlement, the no-child clause was rendered void, freeing Mason from that oppressive condition. Regina, tear-stained, asked him quietly, "Will you ever forgive me?" Mason's stare was glacial. "I can't. The damage is done. Move on." She left the office, tears flowing. He felt a pang, but reminded himself of her months-long deceit and ultimate betrayal. Finally, Ms. Zimmerman updated Mason. The divorce settlement is basically set. Regina's father, Stanley, is quietly paying her legal fees, but at least it's done. Mason nodded. That portion was concluded. Yet the bigger confrontation with Derek loomed. The sabotage attempts, the deeper family secrets, the possibility that they'd keep hounding him or that Derek might escalate. Mason inhaled, leaving Ms. Zimmerman's office under the late afternoon sun, freed from Regina's toxic grasp. But fully aware Derek remained the real puppet master. He no longer had illusions about fatherly love. He's not even my real father, he reminded himself. The next step? To dismantle Derek's power, ensuring he never threatens Mason's future or any potential fatherhood again. With divorce nearing final, Mason stared at the horizon. He'd endured heartbreak, discovered monstrous manipulations, yet emerged strong. Now the final battles with Derek beckoned. The next part of his journey would see that ruthless tyrant confronted in full. The man who orchestrated his wife's betrayal to keep him under control would face Mason's unstoppable revenge. Mason arrives at St. Matthew's Medical Center in the early morning. The corridor bustles with lab techs, orderlies, and fellow doctors. Whispers flutter among the staff about Mason's personal drama, though few know the full scope. He steels himself, determined not to let personal affairs cripple his duties in oncology. He checks in on patients, offering calm encouragement. Despite the emotional turmoil, Mason's empathic presence remains strong. He's a consummate professional. After finishing the morning's consults, he heads to the cafeteria for coffee, mentally reviewing next steps with Ms. Zimmerman, his lawyer. While sipping coffee, Dr. Lindsay Alvarez Mason's confidant slips into the seat opposite him. "Mason," she says quietly, "I overheard talk. Are you sure you want to keep working full pace while your father wages this war?" Mason exhales, gaze flicking around. "No choice. If I back off now, Derek smells blood and intensifies the smear campaign." Alvarez nods, concerned. "Then let me help. If you need a statement from colleagues about your impeccable record, I'll rally the staff. Don't let rumors overshadow your brilliance." Mid-conversation, Mason's phone hums. Grant, the private investigator. He picks up. Grant's voice is urgent. "We found more evidence linking Derek to a shadowy corporate network likely set up to funnel illicit funds. Some references to a sibling or relative possibly intercepting your potential inheritance." Mason's brow furrows. "You mean Cedric? Or maybe Bryn?" "I suspected they were part of this." "Keep digging." Mason steps away from Dr. Alvarez, tension mounting. He never suspected his older brother, Cedric, or his younger sister, Bryn, might be actively pulling strings. Cedric's always been the family golden boy, physically imposing, loyal to Derek. Bryn is cunning. The possibility they're orchestrating a wedge in Mason's finances or career emerges. After lunch, as Mason finishes charting patient notes in the doctor's lounge, Cedric materializes, imposing in a tailored suit. He stands at the doorway, arms folded, face hard. "We need to talk, brother." Mason's hackles rise. Cedric rarely visits unless he's delivering Derek's intimidation. He gestures for Cedric to speak. Cedric's voice drips contempt. "Dad's furious. You're attacking Regina, and by extension, the family's name. You're making a spectacle." Mason smirks. "The spectacle started when you all conspired to ruin me. I'm simply exposing your crimes." Cedric steps closer, towering over Mason. "Listen, you little upstart. We're your real family. We fed and clothed you, gave you everything. You repay us by humiliating Dad and Regina?" Mason stares up, unflinching. "You gave me nothing but control and lies. I owe you zero loyalty." Cedric's knuckles tighten. A wave of memories flash. As a teen, Mason endured Cedric's bullying. But now Mason is grown, no longer intimidated. Cedric leans in, voice low. "If you don't drop this lawsuit, we'll ensure you lose your medical license. We have ways." Mason's adrenaline spikes, but he calmly retorts. "Try. I have the evidence to bury you. Now get out of my workplace." Cedric sneers, but withdraws, muttering, "You asked for war." That same day, Kiara requests to meet Mason at a quiet cafe near the hospital. She arrives, trembling, eyes red from crying. Once seated, she grabs his hand. "Son, I fear for your safety. Derek's done terrible things to keep you from the truth about your parentage. He might escalate." Kiara recounts that years ago, when she was pregnant with Mason, her true love, Mason's biological father, disappeared under suspicious circumstances, possibly murdered. She never had proof, but Derek's menacing threats haunted her. "Derek said if I tried to find him or told you the truth, he'd ruin me, or worse." Kiara breaks down. The possibility that Derek or associates might have orchestrated a murder to secure control over Kiara stuns Mason. So it's not just financial manipulation, they might have blood on their hands. He steadies Kiara. "Mom, we'll get you protection. I won't let him harm you again." She sniffles, relief flickering in her eyes. She agrees to provide an affidavit about Derek's past threats if Ms. Zimmerman needs it. The notion that Derek could be behind an unsolved disappearance elevates the danger. This is bigger than a mere family feud. Mason vows to shield Kiara from harm. Over the next 48 hours, Mason systematically packs up essentials from the marital home, since Regina still occupies it. The tension is unbearable. He rents a small furnished apartment near the hospital, an arrangement Ms. Zimmerman advises to demonstrate separation. "Judges appreciate clarity when awarding final property rights," she notes. She watches him box his clothes, medical journals, personal keepsakes. She tries one last time to hold him, sobbing, "I can't believe you're leaving me. Mason, I swear I was forced. Travis meant nothing. I was lonely, but it's also your father pushing me." He gently shrugs her off. "You still chose to betray me? Enough. Our divorce stands." She collapses in tears. Mason steals his heart. At the new apartment, Mason stares at the bare walls. A surge of sadness hits. "I dedicated my life to helping others, but my own marriage was a sham." Then, thinking of Kiara's confession, the hush money, the child clause he reaffirms. Better to feel lonely here than be tormented in that toxic environment. Grant calls Mason with urgent news. They meet in a dimly lit underground parking lot to avoid prying eyes. Grant's face is grim. "Doc, we uncovered something bigger about your half-siblings. Cedric and Bryn appear to be funneling partial funds from your father's accounts into hush payments or bribes to city officials, possibly to sabotage you from the medical boards." Mason's eyes narrow. So Cedric and Bryn are actively trying to influence the local medical board to question Mason's licensing. They might attempt to push a storyline that you performed unethical procedures or covered up a botched chemo regimen, Grant explains. His heart beats fiercely, but outwardly he's a calm flame. "I'll get Ms. Zimmerman to file a preemptive protective order. If they attempt slander, we'll sue for defamation. Also, gather any proof these officials are being bribed." Grant nods. "We're on it." Next morning, Talia, the new nurse, quietly corners Mason after a patient's consult. She's noticed his escalating tension even as he tries to remain stoic. "Dr. Mason, I see the lines of stress on your face. Are you sure you're okay?" Mason, rarely confiding in colleagues, finds Talia's warm presence disarming. He murmurs, "I'm in a legal war with my father. Discovered my wife's betrayal. My whole life is unraveling." Talia's eyes fill with sympathy. "I'm sorry. If you need a friend or a safe ear, I'm here." He hesitates but thanks her. "You remind me there's still kindness in the world. Let's keep it strictly professional, though. My life is complicated enough." She offers a kind smile. "Understood. No judgment, just offering moral support." A day later, Mason is finishing a late shift when Bryn, his younger sister, appears in the hospital lobby. She seldom interacts with him, but now she strides up, wearing a fashionable coat, an aloof expression. "Mason, we should talk somewhere private." They sit at a nearby 24-hour cafe. Bryn sips tea, studying Mason with cold eyes. "Derek is outraged at your rebellion. Cedric's furious, but me, I might help you if you cut me a deal. I know you want certain secrets from the family vault. Maybe I can provide them for a price." Mason arches an eyebrow. "You want me to bribe you to get the truth about what Derek's done?" "I thought you were loyal to them." Bryn shrugs. "They've always favored Cedric. I get scraps. If I see an advantage in switching sides, I might." She claims she can hand over documents linking Derek to money laundering, but only if Mason grants her immunity in the legal fiasco. Mason, uncertain if she's lying, decides to see if Ms. Zimmerman can utilize her testimony. "We'll consider your offer, but betray me and I'll destroy you with the rest." Bryn smirks. Fair enough. On a stormy evening, Mason's phone rings Kiara in terror. "I'm in my house. Derek's men are outside, pounding on the door." Mason's heart jolts. He leaps from bed, grabs his keys. "Call the police." "I'm on my way." He speeds through the rain-slicked streets to Kiara's suburban place. Police cruisers are already there. Officers found no forced entry but footprints in the mud near windows. Kiara stands, trembling, explaining. "They left when the sirens came. Possibly Cedric's doing or some hired thug." Mason comforts Kiara. "I'll set you up with extra security. They're trying to intimidate you so you won't reveal more about my paternity or the possible murder of my real father." She nods, tears in her eyes. "I'll never let them bully me again." The fear that Derek might escalate to physical harm to keep Kiara silent grows. The policeman on scene warns them to stay vigilant. The next morning, Regina phones Mason. "We need to talk. I have information that might help your case against Derek. I've discovered documents in an old storage box stuff about your real father, about hush payments. Let me show you." Mason, suspicious. "Why the change of heart?" She sniffles. "He threw me under the bus once you filed. He threatened to cut me off financially if I don't sabotage you further. But I'm done. I want to protect myself from him. So I can share these documents. We can do something." Mason arranges a meeting at Ms. Zimmerman's office, refusing any private location. Regina arrives, face pale, handing over a folder of photocopies. They show dated ledger entries referencing hush money to certain individuals, references to an accident decades ago. Ms. Zimmerman is stunned. This might be proof Derek orchestrated a disappearance or forced Kiara's ex to vanish. Regina confesses tearfully. "I see. I was used as a pawn. I want immunity from bigger charges. If we do this quietly, maybe the DA spares me." Ms. Zimmerman glances at Mason, who remains stoic. "We'll see if your cooperation is sincere, Regina, but it's a start." Having gathered key evidence from Regina, Travis, the PI's records, and Kiara's testimony, Mason stands at a pivotal moment. He's bridging alliances, even among former enemies, to topple Derek's empire. The familial tension is at a boiling point. Cedric's aggression, Bryn's uncertain betrayal, Kiara's endangerment, and Regina's pleas. Mason leaves Ms. Zimmerman's office, fists clenched. Soon, he'll present the final blow. The next part still continues, but the next chapter promises to escalate the confrontation with Derek and possibly reveal the final puzzle pieces about Mason's real father's fate. Ms. Zimmerman calls Mason early to report that Derek's lawyers filed a countersuit claiming Mason is emotionally unstable, asking the court to block him from certain medical privileges until the divorce finalizes. They paint him as vengeful, and dangerous. Mason sighs. Let them try. We'll demolish their claims with evidence. The hospital board schedules an urgent meeting about Mason's ongoing controversies. Dr. Alvarez tips him off. Some board members are spooked by rumors from Derek's circle. Mason stands firm. Let them question me. I have a squeaky clean record. I'll not be intimidated. Ms. Zimmerman suggests they present the hush money logs and show that it's actually a malicious conspiracy by Derek to defame Mason. The board might side with him if they see the big picture. Mason agrees, though revealing family dirt to his professional peers feels humiliating. In a glass-walled conference room, half a dozen board members, including the chief of staff, gather. Mason sits alone on one side, Ms. Zimmerman by his side. The board grills him about swirling rumors, malpractice accusations, alleged violent outbursts. Mason calmly states, "These are baseless. My father, Derek, has waged a vendetta to sabotage me during my divorce. I have documentation that he paid hush money to spread these rumors." Ms. Zimmerman hands out sealed envelopes with partial evidence, enough to quell immediate doubts. Chief of Staff studies the evidence, eyebrows rising. Another board member mutters about an orchestrated smear. One board member, Dr. Kellogg, initially skeptical, softens. Dr. Mason's results are exemplary. We see no record of malpractice. The meeting concludes with the board deciding to keep Mason in good standing, but advising him to resolve personal issues swiftly. Afterward, Ms. Zimmerman remarks, "You handled that well. We neutralized Derek's immediate attempt, but he'll come harder next time." Mason nods. "Let him. We're only strengthening our position." Brennan unexpectedly calls Mason, voice shaky. "I'm outside your apartment. Let me in." Warily, he allows her up. She appears disheveled, eyes rimmed with tears. "Cedric is on a rampage. Derek's meltdown is scaring me. They want me to do dirty stuff like forging more documents against you." She reveals glimpses of an old ledger detailing accident payouts, possibly referencing Kiara's lover. "I suspect Dad arranged a permanent solution to that man, your real father." She hands Mason a battered notebook containing cryptic references, dates, sums, a final note. "Service done remains untraceable." Mason's stomach twists. "This is murder evidence?" Bryn nods gravely. "If the cops see it, Dad's finished. Cedric told me to burn it, but I hid it." She proposes a deal. "I'll testify about Dad's criminal history if you help me avoid jail time for forging documents earlier. I can't keep living like this." Mason stares at her, uncertain if it's a genuine defection or cunning game. But he sees the notebook as a bombshell. "All right. I'll talk to Ms. Zimmerman about possible immunity. Don't betray me, Bryn." With the new evidence suggesting homicide, Ms. Zimmerman encourages Mason to approach the authorities about Derek's suspected involvement in a decades-old disappearance. But they need more direct proof. The battered notebook references a fixer named R.P. who carried out the deed. If that man can be found, it might confirm the murder. Meanwhile, Mason urges Kiara to relocate to a safer location, a cousin's home in another state, or at least to get 24/7 security. She resists, tearful. "I can't keep running. But if you think it's best, I will." He convinces her. She leaves, her safety paramount. Regina visits Mason's new apartment, tears brimming. She carries a folder. "Before you finalize your contempt for me, I want you to see these. They're letters from Derek threatening me if I didn't maintain the affair facade. He singled out how you're not his son, but he wanted to keep you from ever thriving." Mason flips through the letter's cynical, threatening lines from Derek. They confirm the manipulations behind Regina's affair. You sold me out for money, he reminds her. She nods, sobbing. I know. I let greed and fear win. If exposing these letters helps bury Derek, I'll do it. Mason sets them aside. Thank you. My position on us remains the same. We're done. But if you truly want atonement, testify about all this in court. Regina, face streaked with tears, agrees. At least she's useful now, he thinks. Better than continuing her father's bidding. A day later, Mason finishes a 10-hour shift, walking to his car in the hospital's dim parking structure. Suddenly, Cedric emerges from behind a concrete column, fists clenched. You think you can tear down Dad with your stupid evidence? Think again. Cedric swings at Mason, who ducks. The blow grazes his shoulder. Adrenaline surges. Mason, though not a trained fighter, is agile enough. He dodges, tries to reason. You're assaulting me in a public place? Security cameras are everywhere, Cedric. Cedric roars. I don't care. You're destroying our family name. Another punch, which Mason partially blocks. He lands a quick elbow to Cedric's side. Cedric staggers, cursing. Security guards appear, drawn by the commotion. Cedric flees, spitting threats. This isn't over! Mason exhales, chest pounding. The guards ask if he wants to file a report. He does, calmly citing it as an unprovoked attack. Another piece of evidence for Ms. Zimmerman. Soon after, an assistant from the district attorney's office calls Ms. Zimmerman, explaining they've heard rumors about homicide allegations against Derek. They want to see any evidence. Ms. Zimmerman sets a meeting, bringing Mason, Bryn's notebook, and initial statements about the missing lover from decades ago. The DA is intrigued, but cautious. We need more direct proof witnesses, or a living accomplice. But if we tie Derek to a murder, that plus your father's attempts on your life create a strong criminal case. Mason nods. We're searching for a mention of R. Picasso in the old records. We'll keep you informed. Bryn calls Mason at midnight, panicked. Cedric found out I gave you that notebook. He threatened me. I'm scared. Mason arranges a quick meet at a 24-hour diner. She arrives shaking, saying Cedric demanded she retract her statements or he'll beat it out of her. Mason tries to calm her. We can get you protective custody if you fully cooperate. The DA might place you in a safe house. She trembles, uncertain. I never wanted it to go this far, but it's too late. They text Ms. Zimmerman, who advises Bryn to sign a sworn affidavit early next morning. Then the DA can consider protective measures. Bryn might be manipulative, but she's now cornered. After finalizing some medical charts, Mason finds Talia waiting with coffee in the break room, a gentle offer. She notices a bruise on his arm from Cedric's assault. You okay, Dr. Mason? He nods. Ran into a bit of trouble. I'll be fine. She sets down the coffee, giving him a look of earnest concern. You're fighting a big fight. Just know you're not alone. Some of us see you as an amazing doctor and a good man. Don't lose hope. Her unwavering kindness hits him. He softly thanks her. He must be cautious about new attachments, but Talia's presence soothes him. She's no wide-eyed innocent, but a supportive colleague. He wonders if, once the storm ends, he might let someone new into his life. With the divorce well underway, Regina cooperating, Bryn flipping to Mason's side, and Cedric launching physical attacks, Mason stands on the brink of a final confrontation. The DA's interest in possibly indicting Derek for murder or conspiracy grows. Cedric roams free on a personal vendetta. Talia offers a brief glimpse of possible companionship, while Ms. Zimmerman readies the arsenal of evidence. Mason leaves the hospital one evening swirling thoughts of the upcoming court hearing that could topple Derek's empire. In the distance, dark storm clouds gather across the Massachusetts skyline, mirroring the sense that the ultimate blow is imminent. The war with Derek is poised to erupt in full force. Ms. Zimmerman files a motion to expedite the divorce finalization and requests the court to freeze certain family assets pending a criminal investigation. Regina doesn't contest, but Derek sends high-priced lawyers to fight it, trying to block the freeze. The judge, seeing strong evidence of collusion and sabotage, grants partial asset freeze. He schedules a broader hearing to consider possible financial crimes. Derek's lawyers sputter. Mason feels a small victory. The system is leaning in his favor. Outside the courthouse, a row of reporters bombards Mason with questions. Rumors swirl about murder allegations tied to Derek. Ms. Zimmerman ushers Mason away from cameras, warning, "This is bigger than we thought. The press is sniffing a potential homicide angle." Bryn, now cooperating with Ms. Zimmerman, is cornered by Cedric in an alley behind a coffee shop. He rages, "You traitorous brat! You gave Dad's murder notes to that spineless doctor? We're siblings!" She tries to run. He grabs her arm violently. She manages to call 911 from her phone, voice trembling. "Help! I'm being assaulted by my brother." Then Cedric knocks the phone away. A bystander intervenes, prompting Cedric to flee. Police arrive soon after, find Bryn shaken with a bruised wrist. She files a restraining order. He hears about it from Bryn that night. She sobs, "I've lost everything. Dad hates me. Cedric wants me gone. Please, I'll fully testify against them if it means protection." Mason, though never close to Bryn, musters empathy. "Cooperate with the DA. I'll make sure Miss Zimmerman helps you." Regina shows up again at Mason's small apartment, brandishing more documents. "Derek wrote me these letters daily, instructing me to keep you under emotional stress. If we can show these to the DA, it might prove conspiracy to harm your mental well-being." She's tearful, trying to salvage some dignity. Mason flips through them. Indeed, they're vile manipulations. Suggestions that Regina accuse Mason of domestic abuse if he grew suspicious, that she sabotage any childbearing, or document alleged medical negligence. Mason feels a twist of nausea. This is monstrous. Regina lowers her head. "I was an idiot. I let him talk me into it for money, status, acceptance. I'm sorry. I know no apology fixes it. But if sharing these letters helps you bury Derek, I'll do it. Then I want to vanish." Mason nods. "Thank you. That's exactly what we'll do." Talia notices Mason trembling with stress after reading more revelations. She gently leads him to an empty break room, sits him down. "You can't keep pushing without respite. You're pale, exhausted." Mason tries brushing it off, but Talia insists he drink water, breathe slowly. She places a comforting hand on his shoulder. The warmth of genuine kindness cracks his stoic facade. "You're doing so much for others, Dr. Mason. Let someone help you for a moment." He exhales, nods. For a fleeting second, he thinks about how Talia's compassion stands in stark contrast to Regina's deception. He's not ready for romance, but he appreciates Talia's unwavering moral support. The district attorney invites Mason, Kiara, Bryn, and Regina to provide sworn statements regarding the probable murder of Mason's biological father. The battered notebook, Regina's letters, Kiara's recollections form a compelling mosaic. The DA is convinced enough to open a formal inquiry into Derek's potential involvement in a decades-old disappearance. Ms. Zimmerman stands ready, facilitating each testimony. Bryn details how she overheard Derek brag to Cedric about that guy who fathered Mason being conveniently removed. Kiara, though trembling, confirms suspicious circumstances and Derek's threats. Regina's letters reference hush references to the old man's fate. The DA emerges from the hours-long session, telling Ms. Zimmerman, "We have enough to question Derek under caution and possibly push for an indictment if we find a direct link or living accomplice." Everyone braces for Derek's furious response. Word of a potential homicide investigation swirling around Derek gets leaked. Local tabloids run sensational headlines. Wealthy entrepreneur under murder suspicion, Dr. Sun spearheads allegations. The story fans out. Derek, never shy from the spotlight, calls a press conference, denouncing Mason as a deranged child bent on defaming him. He claims no knowledge of any murder, labeling it absurd lies. Mason watches the live broadcast from the hospital lounge, fists clenched at Derek's slander. Ms. Zimmerman simply smirks. He's burying himself deeper with these public denials if we have evidence to contradict him. The local populace is enthralled a father versus son legal drama with alleged murder, hush money, an unfaithful wife. Sides are forming. People question if Mason is forging evidence or if Derek is a monstrous villain. Cedric, likely intoxicated, sends a chilling text to Mason. If you mention Dad's name in that murder case again, you'll regret waking up. Don't test me. Ms. Zimmerman advises immediate police involvement. Mason files an official complaint, showing the repeated assaults and threats, hoping to push for Cedric's arrest for harassment. Meanwhile, Cedric lurks at bars, picking fights. The PI confirms he's unraveling under the legal pressure and Bryn's betrayal. Everyone anticipates Cedric might do something drastic. In a shocking twist, Derek manipulates a city council member, someone who influences hospital licensing. They call a special review board to question Mason's mental fitness to continue practicing. The hearing is set within days, a stealth move to corner Mason fast. Ms. Zimmerman scrambles. We must produce character witnesses, show how these allegations are part of a defamation scheme. We can also exhibit Cedric's text threats. Mason nods, determined. He's tried to remain professional, but this is a direct assault on his career. The day before the hearing, Talia approaches Mason, a hint of nerves. I heard about the review board. I'd like to volunteer as a character witness. I've seen how you handle patients, how stable you are, even under personal stress. Mason hesitates. He doesn't want Talia targeted. She insists, I'm not afraid. The truth stands. Your father's manipulations can't overshadow your real merits. Moved by her bravery, Mason agrees, touched that this new colleague stands up for him. Ms. Zimmerman welcomes Talia's willingness, adding it to the roster of supporters, including Dr. Alvarez, to defend Mason's impeccable professional record. As the hearing day dawns, Mason double-checks all documents, finalizes statements from Bryn, Regina, Kiara. He stands in his new apartment's living room, the morning sun casting long shadows on the floor. He knows Derek's next assault is imminent. Cedric roams dangerously. Bryn is half in hiding. Regina is on the brink of fleeing the city, but Mason remains calm, the eye of this hurricane. He's come too far to break now. He steps out, heading to the hospital once more, resolved to face the licensing board hearing with unwavering confidence. The final chapters of this war with Derek approach. If he can survive the hearing and push the DA to indict Derek, Mason might at last claim victory. But at what cost? A polished conference room inside the Massachusetts Medical Oversight Building. A panel of 5 stern-faced officials sits in a row, gazing at Mason from behind their laptops. Journalists hover outside, not allowed inside, but rumor says they'll pounce on any outcome. Ms. Zimmerman stands beside Mason, files stacked. Talia, Dr. Alvarez, a few supportive colleagues gather behind them. Across the room, one official claims to represent concerned parties, though Ms. Zimmerman suspects Derek's influence. The lead official states they're investigating allegations that Mason is unstable, prone to unethical decisions, and possibly under suspicion of slanderous attacks on his father. They outline that any findings might lead to suspension of his license. Mason sits calm, letting Ms. Zimmerman begin. Talia steps forward, voice steady. I've worked under Dr. Mason for 3 months. I see no sign of mental instability. He's calm in crises, empathetic to patients, consistent in daily tasks. She recounts how he handled a complicated chemo regimen with precision, how he de-escalated a tense family confrontation in the ward. The board nods, scribbling notes. Dr. Alvarez testifies next, highlighting Mason's impeccable track record, 0 malpractice suits, glowing patient satisfaction. Any rumors of violent or unethical behavior are baseless, he says. The board listens intently, seeing 2 credible medical professionals vouching for Mason's competence. Ms. Zimmerman delivers a structured argument. These allegations come from Mason's father, Derek, who's currently under scrutiny for potential criminal conspiracy. We have phone logs, text threats from Cedric, hush money trails proving a scheme to sabotage Mason. Our exhibits demonstrate Mason is the victim of defamation, not a perpetrator of misconduct. She shows copies of threatening messages, depositions from Regina about the forced affair plan, from Bryn about the hush money. The board members exchange glances, seeing the puzzle come together. Ms. Zimmerman's voice is unwavering. This so-called mental instability narrative is a smokescreen to overshadow the father's potential wrongdoing, even a homicide from decades ago. The final exhibit is an audio snippet where Derek threatens to burn Mason's reputation to the ground if he doesn't comply. The board is visibly unsettled by hearing Derek's own words. Mason stands, taking a measured breath. He recounts, I'm a dedicated oncologist. My personal life unraveled when I discovered Regina's infidelity, orchestrated by my father to keep me in line. Despite the emotional pain, I never neglected my duties. I have no history of malpractice. I invite any investigative body to review my cases. He then addresses the board directly. I assure you, the slander is part of a campaign by my father to hide deeper crimes. I have complied with every ethical standard in my practice. My only request is that the board sees the facts. The lead official responds. Dr. Mason, your evidence is compelling. We appreciate your transparency. Mason nods, relieved. Ms. Zimmerman stands beside him like a sentinel. After hours of closed-door discussion, the board reconvenes. The lead official announces, we find no credible basis to suspend Dr. Mason's medical license. The allegations are unsubstantiated. We will not restrict his practice. A wave of relief washes over Mason's supporters. Talia clasps her hands, beaming quietly. Dr. Alvarez gives a nod of affirmation. Ms. Zimmerman smiles at Mason, whispering, we won this battle. The board also expresses dismay at the manipulative nature of the allegations. They issue an official statement condemning the attempt to discredit a respected physician. This victory is a major blow to Derek's smear tactics. Meanwhile, Derek, enraged that the hearing exonerated Mason, allegedly tries to bribe a local journalist to publish false allegations about Mason's illegal prescriptions. The journalist, suspicious, contacts Ms. Zimmerman, who sets a trap. She has the conversation recorded, further incriminating Derek in attempted extortion. Cedric simultaneously tries physically confronting Bryn to retrieve the homicide notebook. But Bryn, now under partial police protection, stands her ground. He fails, storming off in a violent rage. The tension soared. The father and brother are cornered, their empire cracks. Realizing the unstoppable momentum, Regina finalizes the divorce settlement with Ms. Zimmerman. She signs all documents, ceding assets to Mason, disclaiming any challenge to his future earnings. She also signs an affidavit about Derek's manipulations, confirming hush payments. Ms. Zimmerman ensures a notary witnesses it. The day the settlement is filed, Regina tearfully packs her suitcases from the old house, which Mason vacated. She leaves a short handwritten note for Mason. "I'm sorry. I was weak. I hope you find peace and eventually love." She departs the city. Rumor has it she'll transfer to a different pharma branch out west. Mason feels a pang once. They dreamed of building a life together. Now, she's gone, leaving only betrayal's ashes. He steels himself, no tears left for her. The real target remains. Derek. The district attorney calls Ms. Zimmerman and Mason for a private briefing. They found a living link. RP stands for Ronald Pierce, a retired shady fixer rumored to have done dirty jobs for Derek. The DA traced him to a small town in Maine. The DA prepares an arrest warrant for Derek on suspicion of orchestrating the murder of Mason's real father decades ago. They want Mason's testimony about Kiara's revelations, Regina's letters referencing hush payments, Bryn's notebook, etc. This is the big hammer. Ms. Zimmerman warns Mason that once they serve this warrant, Derek might snap or attempt flight. Be prepared for final confrontation. Mason understands. Adrenaline surging. The end game is near. A day before the DA's rumored raid, Talia finds Mason alone in a hospital corridor, late after a tough operation. She quietly steps up. "I heard a rumor your father's about to be indicted. You must be tense. If you need a safe place to vent, I have an ear." Mason looks at her, exhausted but appreciative. "You're the only bright spot in this madness, thank you." Talia just smiles. "You deserve some light." She gently touches his shoulder, a simple gesture of human connection. Mason's heart warms slightly, sensing a possible future once this storm passes. With Regina gone and the hospital licensing attack thwarted, Mason stands on the brink of toppling Derek completely. The DA's about to serve an arrest warrant for potential murder charges. Cedric roams violently. Bryn hides with partial police protection. Kiara is safe, but still haunted. Talia emerges as a possible new anchor of friendship or more. Mason finishes a late shift, stepping into the cool night air. He stares at the city lights, letting the wind ruffle his hair. Tomorrow might bring the final reckoning, the day Derek is forced to face the law for decades of tyranny and possibly murder. If all goes well, Mason's family nightmare ends in a harsh but deserved downfall. The DA's office, armed with a judge's warrant, storms Derek's lavish estate. Several black SUVs, uniformed cops, and investigators approach. Inside, Derek stands in a robe, fury twisting his features. They present the warrant for his arrest on conspiracy to commit murder, hush money extortion, and other charges related to harassing Mason. The scene is tense. Cedric tries to block the officers, shouting that they have no right. The lead detective calmly recites Cedric's outstanding assault charges. Cedric is handcuffed on the spot. Derek attempts to phone powerful allies, but the DA's men seize his phone. He's forcibly taken into custody. Chaos erupts as staff run around, but the law stands firm. Meanwhile, Bryn, from a safe location, watches news coverage of the raid, tears of relief in her eyes. She avoided the storm by flipping on them. She calls Ms. Zimmerman. "It's happening. He's finally going down, isn't he?" Ms. Zimmerman calls Mason early. "They got Derek, Cedric too. The DA will press multiple felony charges, probably no bail given the severity." Mason exhales a huge breath, leaning on a nurse's station for support. A swirl of emotions hits: triumph, sorrow, relief. All these years, that controlling father figure now facing justice. Dr. Alvarez passes by, sees Mason's expression. "You good?" Mason nods slowly. "Yes, I think so. Feels surreal." The court session is packed with media. Derek, in handcuffs, looks disheveled, spitting venom at the DA, claiming innocence. The prosecutor reads a litany of charges: conspiracy to commit murder of Mason's father, blackmail, intimidation, accessory to assault, defamation. Cedric stands behind him, also cuffed, glaring hate at Mason from across the courtroom. Ms. Zimmerman sits next to Mason, who watches from the gallery, feeling the magnitude. The judge denies bail for Derek, given the lethal nature of allegations, the flight risk. Cedric also denied bail due to prior assaults. Regina's absence is noted she's not indicted, having cooperated. Kiara, trembling, sits behind Mason, seeing Derek's downfall with teary eyes. As the hearing proceeds, Derek, cornered, tries a final twist accusing Mason of forging evidence. The DA smirks, producing the recorded calls, the battered notebook, the hush money logs, plus Regina's sworn statement. Derek's face contorts. He blurts in a meltdown. "Yes, I had to stop him from discovering the truth. He was never my blood, just a bastard child. I did what I had to do." Gasps fill the courtroom. The judge slams the gavel. This rant cements the prosecution's case that Derek acted out of deep resentment. Mason feels both horror and a strange release. The entire court sees Derek's hateful admission. Cedric, realizing there's no escape, breaks down in custody, calling out, "Dad, what did you do? You told me we were preserving the family legacy." Derek just sneers, ignoring him. The father-son unity cracks. Cedric then hurls curses at Derek for lying about everything, even the reason for targeting Mason. The father and older brother now turn on each other, fracturing any defense. The judge schedules a full criminal trial for Derek and Cedric. Bail is refused. They remain behind bars. The media swarms Mason outside the courthouse, peppering him with questions about how it feels to see his father indicted for murder. Ms. Zimmerman shields him, guiding him to a waiting car. Inside the car, Kiara, eyes red, says softly, "I never imagined this day. I'm sorry for all the pain." Mason wraps an arm around her. "Mom, you did what you could. Now at least the truth is out." Derek's holdings freeze under RICO-like charges. Cedric's role as enforcer or co-conspirator means many family assets go to legal limbo. Bryn, in partial protective status, breathes relief that she's off the hook for forging documents, as she cooperated. She might face minor penalties, but avoids jail. She's rumored to have left the state. Mason no longer cares. Their divorce is final. Ms. Zimmerman ensures he retains his personal assets. The no-child clause is null. He's free to build a future family if he chooses. Meanwhile, the DA's office digs deeper into the old murder. They find partial remains in an abandoned well, possibly matching the missing man's DNA. If confirmed, Derek faces a homicide conviction, guaranteeing life imprisonment. With the biggest immediate storm past, Mason continues caring for patients. Talia, noticing the shift in his aura from tension to exhausted relief, suggests they grab coffee after work. Over steaming cups, Talia smiles softly. "You look lighter, Dr. Mason. Dare I say, free?" He nods, a small, genuine smile forming. "It's surreal. I'm not celebrating a father's downfall, but he was never truly my father. The tyranny is over." She rests a hand on his. "I'm happy for you. You deserve peace." The moment holds promise. A spark of new beginnings. On a quiet Sunday, Kiara summons Mason to her house, now safer with Derek in jail. She leads him to a dusty trunk in the attic. Inside are old photos, letters. She reveals them. Pictures of a smiling man, pinned as Ethan Lockwood, presumably Mason's real father. The letters speak of love, unborn child excitement. Then it abruptly ends with, "He disappeared." Kiara sobs. "I always suspected Derek had him killed. I was powerless. Now, at last, I can show you who your real father was." Mason, tears moistening his eyes, flips through the photos. The resemblance is faint, but real. "Thank you, Mom. I wish I'd known him." Kiara says softly, "He was a kind man. Now that the truth is out, Maybe you can honor him, your real lineage, free from Derek's shadow. Mason closes the trunk, a heavy ache in his chest, but also closure. Yes, I'll ensure he's remembered. Thus, with Derek and Cedric jailed, the homicide investigation underway, and Regina departed, Mason stands at the precipice of a new life. Freed from the false father and toxic marriage, able to pursue fatherhood or any life path he wants. Talia's gentle presence suggests a hopeful future. Kiara can heal from decades of fear. Bryn has partially redeemed herself. The entire empire Derek built is crumbling in scandal. Mason, leaving Kiara's attic, breathes in the crisp air, feeling truly unshackled for the first time in memory. He's ready for the next stage, the next part where he may finally reclaim his identity, consider forging a new family, and see Derek stand trial for murder. The saga continues. 2 weeks after Derek's arrest, the district attorney officially files a detailed indictment in the Superior Court. Charges include first-degree murder for the decades-old disappearance of Mason's real father, Ethan Lockwood, plus conspiracy, blackmail, and attempted extortion. Mason, now a key witness, receives a formal subpoena. Ms. Zimmerman briefs Mason. Derek's lawyers will throw everything at us. They might challenge the old evidence's authenticity, question Bryn's credibility, call Kiara's memories inconsistent. But we have a strong case. Mason nods, tension in his gut. He's ready. This is the final justice. Meanwhile, Cedric is indicted separately for assault, intimidation, and accessory to the murder cover-up. The court schedules both trials close together. Cedric's fury continues simmering behind bars, fueling speculation he might flip or reveal more secrets. Despite the looming trial, Mason continues excelling at St. Matthew's Medical Center. He's published a new paper on advanced chemo protocols. Colleagues congratulate him. A local news piece calls him the brilliant oncologist who overcame personal strife. The hospital board reaffirms their support. She remains out of state for safety, but texts Mason often. Freed from Derek's threats, her voice over phone calls sounds lighter, though she's apprehensive about testifying in court. She'll do it for Mason and in memory of Ethan Lockwood. From rumor, Regina is living in Chicago, starting a new job. She occasionally emails Ms. Zimmerman about final divorce details, but does not contact Mason directly. He feels nothing but a faint relief she's gone. Talia, the caring nurse, remains a supportive figure. She and Mason exchange easy conversation about patients, share coffee breaks. She's aware of the upcoming murder trial, gently asks how he's holding up. He confides bits of the stress but tries not to burden her. One evening, Talia invites Mason to a casual after-work dinner, just to unwind. They go to a quiet bistro, discussing everything from childhood memories to medical hopes. They laugh softly. The warmth between them grows a slow, respectful closeness, blossoming out of mutual trust. Mason's still cautious, but it's a tender step toward normalcy. His high-priced legal team files multiple motions to dismiss the murder charge, claiming insufficient direct evidence, challenging the battered notebook as hearsay. The judge denies these motions, citing the unusual but compelling evidence, plus the living fixer named Ronald Pierce, who might testify. Ms. Zimmerman deposes Pierce, who corroborates that Derek paid him to handle Lockwood. She records the deposition on video. This cements a near-guaranteed conviction if Pierce testifies credibly in open court. Cedric's team also attempts to separate his trial from Derek's, but the DA insists they're intertwined. The judge decides to keep them joint for the murder cover-up portion. Cedric rages, feeling trapped under Derek's sinking ship. Bryn, still under partial police protection, meets Ms. Zimmerman to finalize her sworn statement. She's torn. I never wanted Dad to kill anyone. I was a kid when that happened, but I helped hide documents. I'm sorry. Ms. Zimmerman explains the DA might offer reduced charges if her testimony is solid. Mason meets Bryn briefly at Ms. Zimmerman's office. The siblings share a tense conversation. Bryn says, I know you have every reason to hate me, but I want out of Dad's shadow. Sorry for everything. Mason, arms folded, responds, just do the right thing on the stand. Then we can figure out if there's any chance for sibling civility. Bryn nods, tears in her eyes. She reveals a final snippet. Dad used to brag that even if indicted, he had a plan to vanish or kill anyone who threatened him. Be careful, Mason. The ominous note lingers. Ms. Zimmerman recommends Mason see a psychologist to handle the mental burden of testifying about his father's alleged murder. He attends a couple of sessions, unearthing old pains of childhood neglect, the fresh wounds of Regina's betrayal, and the shock of discovering Ethan Lockwood was his real father. The therapist helps Mason articulate his goals. He wants to ensure Derek faces the full legal consequences, protect Kiara, and rebuild a life free from these shadows. Mason emerges more centered, ready to confront Derek face-to-face in court, if needed. The judge schedules a final pretrial hearing to confirm witness lists, evidence acceptance, and set the start date. Mason and Ms. Zimmerman attend. Derek is wheeled into the courtroom in shackles, the estate under foreclosure, his empire in shambles. Cedric is brought in separately. Derek sees Mason across the aisle, sneers. In a low, furious hiss, he mutters, "This is your doing, you bastard! I made you what you are!" Mason, calm, retorts, "No! You nearly destroyed me. Now you face justice." Derek tries lunging, but the bailiffs restrain him. The judge sternly warns Derek's counsel that any outburst will forfeit certain privileges. Derek glowers, chest heaving. Ms. Zimmerman leans to Mason. "He's losing it. This helps our case if he shows violent instability." Mason nods, heart pounding. He never thought he'd see the day Derek was physically reduced to a cuffed, raging figure. With police escort, Kiara returns from out of state to prepare for testimony. She stays in a secure hotel. Mason visits her, noticing she's both relieved and terrified. She thanks him for giving her courage. "I can't run forever. I must stand in court to speak the truth about Ethan Lockwood." That evening, Kiara and Mason share dinner. She confesses how Derek coerced her after Ethan vanished, threatening to harm unborn Mason if she didn't comply. She weeps, apologizing for not protecting him from Derek's emotional abuse. Mason gently holds her hand. "We're here now, Mom, on the verge of justice. Don't blame yourself too much." The next day, Bryn joins them briefly, awkwardly uniting the mother and daughter who also had tensions. Bryn murmurs regrets. Kiara attempts a conciliatory hug. They're not happy family, but an alliance against Derek's tyranny, forging a fragile unity for the upcoming trial. The trial is set to begin in 2 days. Mason finishes a final shift before taking personal leave to attend court full-time. Talia finds him in the break room, offers a small package, a simple black tie, saying softly, "Thought you could use a fresh start look for court. Might be silly, but it's a gesture of support." Mason's throat tightens with gratitude. "Thank you, Talia. You keep surprising me with kindness." She shrugs, a blush in her cheeks. "You deserve good things, Dr. Mason." He carefully places the tie in his bag, a quiet spark of warmth in an otherwise grim period. Everything is aligned. The DA is ready, Ms. Zimmerman has evidence, Bryn and Regina plan to testify, Kiara prepared to reveal all about Ethan Lockwood's murder. Derek sits in jail, seething, with Cedric equally furious. The public awaits a sensational trial. Mason steels himself. 2 days from now, he'll stand in the witness box, face Derek, and recount the betrayal that shaped his life. This final act promises to be the ultimate confrontation, determining whether justice will truly be served. The courthouse in downtown Boston bustles with reporters, cameras, onlookers. Headline: Influential businessman Derek on trial for murder conspiracy and blackmail, his oncologist son among key witnesses. Mason arrives with Ms. Zimmerman, ignoring shouted questions. Kiara, Bryn, and Regina arrive separately, each protected by police or friends. A solemn judge presides over a 12-person jury. The DA outlines the case. Decades ago, Ethan Lockwood vanished. New evidence suggests Derek hired a fixer to kill him. Plus, more recent conspiracies of hush money and sabotage aimed at Mason, the unborn child, etc. Derek pleads not guilty, scowling. The defense attorney tries painting Derek as a victim of familial vendettas. They vow to discredit each witness. The tension is electric. Kiara takes the stand, voice trembling but resolute. She recounts how she loved Ethan, conceived Mason, and how Derek cornered her after Ethan's disappearance. She describes the threats, the forced marriage, the decades of fear. Sobs rack her as she describes suspecting Derek orchestrated Ethan's death. The gallery is stunned. The DA gently guides her to confirm details. The defense tries to undermine her memory, calling it old and unreliable. Kiara remains steadfast, tears shining. Mason watches from the front row, feeling pride in her courage. The cross-examination is harsh, but Ms. Zimmerman helps shield Kiara from too much psychological abuse. Kiara steps down, shaken but unbroken. Bryn, though once a co-conspirator, now testifies how Derek bragged about controlling the family, forced hush money, and threatened her if she revealed the homicide evidence. She admits forging documents to sabotage Mason's finances under Derek's instructions. She apologizes publicly, tears sliding, hoping for leniency. The defense attempts to label her an untrustworthy accomplice. She acknowledges her wrongdoing, but insists Derek masterminded everything, referencing the battered notebook detailing hush money after Ethan's disappearance. Her candor wavers the jury. They see a fearful daughter manipulated by a tyrannical father. Regina, eyes puffy, stands in a simple dark dress. She confesses to the affair with Travis, orchestrated partly by Derek's instructions to keep Mason psychologically off balance. She details how Derek offered monthly payments if she continued misleading Mason, preventing him from discovering his real father's murder or pursuing children. The court gasps at the twisted arrangement. The defense tries painting Regina as a scorned woman, shifting blame to Derek. She stares them down, referencing recorded phone calls. Ms. Zimmerman provides said recordings, revalidating the hush money. Regina breaks down, lamenting her betrayal of Mason. The jury, though possibly unsympathetic to her adultery, sees the bigger scheme of Derek's cruelty. The DA calls Ronald Pierce, RP, the alleged fixer. He's an older man, grizzled, brought in from a secure facility. He testifies with shaky regret that decades ago, Derek paid him to remove Ethan Lockwood, orchestrating it to look like a disappearance. He describes receiving $50,000 cash. The gallery falls silent in horror. The defense attorney tries everything to discredit Pierce, calling him a criminal seeking a plea deal. He calmly states he's already served time for unrelated charges, but now telling the truth to unburden himself. Ms. Zimmerman quietly comments to Mason, "This seals Derek's fate if the jury believes him?" The judge instructs the jury to weigh Pierce's credibility carefully, but combined with Kiara's, Bryn's, and Regina's testimonies, plus the battered notebook, it's damning. Finally, Mason is called. The DA questions him about discovering the affair, the hush money logs, how Derek threatened his medical license and orchestrated rumors. Mason speaks calmly, verifying each piece of evidence. He describes how Kiara revealed he's not Derek's son, linking it to Derek's possible motive for eliminating Ethan. Ms. Zimmerman ensures Mason's testimony is cohesive, an arc of childhood intimidation, discovering the murder link, the meltdown with Regina, all tying back to Derek's manipulations. The jury sees a man of integrity, forced to uproot horrifying secrets. The defense tries to rattle him, suggesting Mason is vengeful, making up murder stories. He remains unflinching, referencing the battered notebook, the audio recordings, and echoing Pierce's confession. The cross-examination fails to dent Mason's poise. During Mason's testimony, Derek seethes. Finally, he snaps, "You lying bastard! I should have ended you too, just like your worthless father." He lunges from the defense table. Bailiffs wrestle him down. The courtroom erupts and gasps. The judge slams the gavel, ordering an immediate recess. Mason stands, heart pounding, but also feeling a grim triumph. Derek publicly admitted lethal intent. The jury surely caught that outburst. The defense attorney buries his head in his hands, seeing the case slip away. Over 2 more days, the DA and defense present final arguments. The DA emphasizes the combined weight of all witness testimonies, plus Derek's own meltdown. The defense pleads that it's all circumstantial, but the jury's unimpressed. Ms. Zimmerman privately assures Mason that a conviction is highly likely. After hours of deliberation, the jury returns. They find Derek guilty of first-degree murder in Ethan Lockwood's case, plus conspiracy, blackmail, and extortion. They find Cedric guilty of accessory to murder, cover-up, and assault. The judge, citing the shocking cruelty, sentences Derek to life in prison without parole. Cedric receives 20 years. The gallery buzzes with relief and shock. She breaks down in tears of relief, hugging Mason in the hallway. Finally, that man can't hurt anyone again. Mason, eyes damp, comforts her. They share a quiet moment, honoring Ethan's memory. The press swarms, but Ms. Zimmerman escorts them out discreetly. With her cooperation, the DA grants Bryn probation for her forgery and minor roles. She quietly thanks Mason for not pushing for her imprisonment. He gives a tight nod, unsure if full sibling reconciliation is possible. But at least she's out of that toxic shadow. She's not present in court, but Ms. Zimmerman texts her the verdict. Regina's reply is short. "At least it's over? Wish I'd never followed Derek's plan. Good luck, Mason." He feels a final sense of release, no lingering ties. Derek and Cedric face long incarceration, the darkest secrets of the family exposed. Mason stands outside the courthouse, the crisp Boston air on his face. Ms. Zimmerman congratulates him. Kiara stands by, and the media cameras flash. With the paternal threat erased, Mason can truly chart his own future. Part 3 continues, but the core conflict is resolved. Now, it's about Mason rebuilding his life, perhaps exploring deeper connections with Talia, and finally, living free from fear. Mason steps into his hospital as a man unburdened by looming court battles. Staff congratulate him quietly. Some had followed the sensational trial. Now they greet him with respect, acknowledging his resilience. Dr. Alvarez shakes his hand. "You stood against your father's monstrous crimes. I admire your grit. We're proud to have you here, Dr. Mason." Mason feels a swirl of gratitude, though also exhaustion. It's the first time in years he's not fighting a hidden war. Cedric tries to send Mason a letter from prison, blaming Derek for everything, begging for forgiveness. Mason reads it once, sets it aside. He's not sure if he can forgive that easily. At least Cedric's physically away now. Freed from terror, Kiara stays in Massachusetts a bit longer to settle the final details of the estate meltdown. She and Mason meet for walks in the local park, discussing long-lost Father Ethan's memory. She confesses guilt over letting Derek control her. Mason assures her, "He was a dangerous man. You survived. Now we can honor Ethan's legacy. She contemplates moving closer to Mason. He encourages it, wanting to rebuild a genuine mother-son bond. They share tears, recalling how, for decades, they never had a truly free relationship due to Derek's overshadowing presence. Now, they vow to move forward in truth. Bryn invites Mason to a small cafe. She's wearing simpler clothes, humility replacing her old haughtiness. She admits, "I don't expect immediate trust, but I want you to know I regret harming you." Mason studies her, seeing a glimmer of remorse. She explains she might start anew in another city, or possibly remain under watch. The DA allowed her a second chance. She says, "If you want any relationship going forward, I'd be willing, but I respect if you can't." Mason nods, feeling mixed. Anger for her past complicity, pity for her overshadowed childhood. He suggests they keep sporadic contact. She hands him a small box. "Mom's old locket with a baby picture of you from the days she still believed Ethan was alive. I found it in Dad's stuff. Thought you should have it." Mason's eyes missed, carefully pocketing it. "Thank you." A fragile understanding forms. Mason visits the old marital home, deserted after Regina left. With Ms. Zimmerman's help, he has legal ownership, but the memories of betrayal linger in every room. He stands in the master bedroom, recalling the night he found Regina with Travis. The sense of heartbreak still resonates. He decides to sell the property, no ties to that place of pain. Ms. Zimmerman handles the listing. He's ready to buy a new condo or house, free from the shadows of that marriage. Freed from the no-child clause or illusions, he can shape a fresh environment for the future. Freed from drama, Mason devotes energy to a new oncology research grant. The hospital administration, impressed by his unwavering focus under adversity, nominates him as head of a specialized pediatric cancer wing. He's honored, accepting the position, seeing a chance to expand life-saving treatments. A local news channel interviews him about medical breakthroughs. The reporter tries to poke about the trial and family meltdown. Mason politely deflects, focusing on patient outcomes. The resulting article portrays him as a heroic figure who overcame a dark, manipulative father to advance medicine. Mason reads it, feeling a quiet pride. One Friday, Talia timidly invites Mason to a small housewarming party at her modest apartment. He attends, meeting a few of her nurse friends, enjoying homemade snacks. The easy camaraderie soothes him after months of turmoil. Talia pulls him aside, quietly asking, "So, how does it feel to be free? I mean, no more father's shadow, no more toxic marriage." Mason sighs, a small smile. "Strange, but good. Like I'm seeing color after living in grayscale." She nods, warmth in her eyes. Later, as the party winds down, Talia and Mason step onto her tiny balcony, overlooking city lights. They talk about hopes. Talia wants to eventually open a clinic for underprivileged patients. Mason reveals his dream of having children someday, no longer forbidden. They share a tender moment, a hushed spark that might be the start of genuine romance. Over subsequent weeks, Mason ponders the concept of fatherhood once denied by Regina's clause. He's 35, an accomplished doctor, free to form a family if he chooses. The trauma from the affair and father's tyranny slowed him, but now a yearning stirs again. Kiara notices his pensive mood. "You always wanted kids," she says gently. "Don't let their evil snuff out that dream." Mason smiles softly, hugging her. "Thanks, Mom. I just need time, but yes, I do want a family." He might not rush, but the door is open. One morning, Mason gets a letter from Cedric, the prison postmark. Opening it, he reads a tortured apology, describing how Derek manipulated Cedric from childhood, fueling envy toward Mason. "I harbored hatred for you because Dad said you were a bastard child trying to replace me. I see how wrong I was. I'm sorry for physically harming you. He begs for some semblance of forgiveness, acknowledging he'll be behind bars for a long time. Mason's reaction is complex. Anger, pity, relief. After a day of contemplation, he writes a brief reply. I accept your apology as a step forward, but trust is gone. Focus on redemption in prison. He sees no reason to maintain a close bond, but maybe closure is possible. A final hearing addresses the homicide verdict. The judge, referencing all evidence and the jury's recommendation, sentences Derek to life imprisonment without parole. In the packed courtroom, Mason stands with Ms. Zimmerman, Kiara by his side. Derek, pale and defeated, glares at them. The judge's gavel seals his fate. Outside, press swarm. Mason gives a short statement. Justice is served. I stand with my mother, honoring the father I never knew, Ethan Lockwood. I want to move forward, free of past tyranny. Kiara tears up. Grateful closure has arrived. Miss Zimmerman discreetly closes out final tasks. The empire Derek once built is fully dismantled, his assets seized or sold. Legal restitution possibly covering life's damage. The final meltdown ended in the harshest sentence for Derek. Mason emerges from the courthouse, inhaling crisp air. He feels a weight vanish. The war is truly over. Kiara links arms with him, whispering, "You're free now." He nods, tears moistening. Freed from fear, from false father and false marriage, Talia's support, Kiara's unwavering presence, Ms. Zimmerman's legal prowess, all shaped this victory. Next step, truly living on his own terms. The public quickly shifts attention to the next sensational story. Mason is left with a sense of surreal calm, no father, no toxic siblings except Bryn's small olive branch, no traitorous wife. He half expects another bomb to drop, but none comes. Cedric rots in prison. Derek is locked away for life. Bryn is on probation. Regina is out of state. He devotes fresh energy to the hospital's expansion projects, forging a legacy free from paternal influence. The staff notices he's more relaxed, occasionally cracking jokes. Kiara sells the old family house, invests in a modest condo near Mason's new place. She fills it with bright decor, free from Derek's oppressive presence. She starts volunteering at a local charity, finding purpose in helping battered spouses, a cause close to her heart. Mason supports her, proud to see her blooming into an independent woman. Over tea, Kiara confides, I want to visit Ethan's grave, or at least the memorial site if they confirm his remains. Will you come? Mason nods. A solemn promise. The DA's final identification process is pending, but they plan a small memorial once official. Bryn invites Mason again, calmer now that the trial ended. She's wearing simpler attire, less flashy. She thanks him for not pressing harsher charges. She shows him a community college enrollment form. She wants to learn a real skill, maybe paralegal studies. He nods. That's good. I wish you well, Bryn. Don't waste this second chance. She fidgets. One day, if we can be siblings in a normal sense, I'd like that. He shrugs, offering a faint smile. We'll see how time heals. For now, let's keep a respectful distance. She understands, leaves quietly. A sense of cautious hope emerges that their relationship could at least exist in mild civility. One afternoon, Mason receives an unknown number. The voice is Regina's. She says she's in Boston for a day, wanting to meet for closure. Mason hesitates, but agrees to a public cafe. She arrives looking tired, humility etched on her face. She confesses, I plan to move permanently to the West Coast. Found a small job in biotech. Just wanted to say you deserved so much better. I was weak. I let Derek's manipulation and my own greed blind me. I'm sorry. I truly loved you once, but I betrayed that love. Mason listens silently, emotions subdued. Thanks for admitting it. At least the divorce is final. We can part ways with no illusions. She nods, tears glistening. I hope you find happiness. Maybe you'll have the family you always wanted. He doesn't respond, just nods. She leaves, glancing back with sorrow. He feels a flicker of closure. She's no longer a factor in his life. Freed from the drama, Mason finally accepts Talia's invitation to a relaxing dinner at her place. She cooks a simple meal: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, a far cry from the fancy dinners Regina once tried. The atmosphere is warm, genuine. They share stories of their childhoods, her aspirations to do non-profit nursing overseas one day, his new pediatric oncology wing. Over dessert, Talia hesitantly mentions, I know you've been through a war. If you're open to more personal closeness, I'd like to walk that journey with you. But no pressure. I respect if you need more time. Mason, heart pounding, quietly smiles. I appreciate you. Let's take it slow. I'm still healing. She nods, eyes shining. A soft, mutual acceptance passes between them, a seed of real companionship growing gently. The DA officially confirms the recovered remains are Ethan Lockwood's. They release them to Kiara for a proper memorial. A small private service is arranged at a tranquil cemetery. Mason stands beside Kiara, each holding a white rose. Bryn attends, subdued. A few old friends of Kiara come, offering condolences. Kiara lays the rose by the simple headstone. Ethan Lockwood, loved and not forgotten. She weeps, whispering an apology for not rescuing him, while Mason quietly closes his eyes, imagining what life might have been had Ethan raised him. Even in sorrow, there's peace. The father he never knew is now honored. At the memorial, Bryn confides to Mason that she discovered an old letter from Ethan meant for Kiara, talking about building a future for the unborn child. Mason reads it, tears glinting. He wanted me, he murmurs. That realization cements the sense of belonging he'd lacked with Derek. A few weeks later, Cedric requests Mason visit him behind bars. Ms. Zimmerman cautions him it's not mandatory. Mason decides to see if closure is possible. He visits the prison visitation room. Cedric, sallow-eyed, meets him across a table. Cedric stammers, I was Dad's puppet. I'm paying the price. I hope you can believe I didn't know he murdered your father back then. I only found out as an adult, and by then I felt locked in. Mason listens, arms folded. You still threatened me, attacked me. Don't blame everything on Derek. Cedric sighs. Yes, I was a bully. I can't undo it. I'm sorry. Mason stands to leave. I appreciate the apology, but I can't promise reconciliation. Serve your time. Reflect on your choices. Cedric nods, resigned. The guard escorts him away. Mason departs, feeling an odd finality. Cedric's done. The family's shackles are shattered. Over subsequent months, Mason's new pediatric oncology wing flourishes. He secures grants for advanced therapies, saving children once deemed terminal. The local press covers these success stories, overshadowing the dark family scandal. The staff respects him deeply. She becomes an integral nurse in that wing, working under Mason's leadership. Their synergy is purely professional by day, but in quiet moments, an undercurrent of affection pulses. They share coffee breaks, texting jokes. It's a comforting slow burn. No rushed romance, just mutual caring. Ms. Zimmerman notices Mason's lighter aura, joking, Never seen you smile this often, Doc. Good to see the gloom is gone. Mason simply grins. I guess a fresh chapter does wonders. Months after the trial, Mason invites Talia to a small dinner at his new condo, located near a scenic pond. Soft music plays while they cook side by side, chopping veggies, savoring the moment. The conversation drifts to family, potential kids. Mason, heart-thumping, admits he wants children eventually, having been denied that dream before. Talia gently replies she's open to that one day, though no rush. They share a tender embrace, each acknowledging the possibility of building a genuine family down the road. This time, it's grounded in honesty and mutual respect, not deception or paternal tyranny. Mason quietly shows Talia a small baby photo of him, the one Bryn found. "This is me, the child Ethan fathered. I want my own child to have a father's love that I never got from Derek." Talia's eyes shine with empathy. She kisses his cheek, whispering, "You'll be a wonderful dad someday." Mason stands on the balcony with Talia after dinner, the city lights reflecting on the pond. In the hush, he recalls the swirling storms, Regina's betrayal, Derek's monstrous acts, the heartbreak, the murder revelations. All behind him now. The night air feels crisp with promise. He holds Talia's hand, gazing into the distance. He overcame a father who wasn't truly his father, reclaimed his professional honor, and discovered a path to genuine love and potential fatherhood. Though scars remain, he no longer lives under any oppressive shadow. He's free to craft his own destiny, shaped by compassion rather than fear. In honor of Ethan Lockwood, Mason establishes a small scholarship fund for underprivileged college students pursuing medical careers. Named the Lockwood Fellowship, it's a quiet homage to the father he never knew. Kiara and Bryn attend the small launch ceremony. Mason stands at the podium, voice steady. "We honor an unsung man whose dreams were stolen so that future healers can flourish." The applause is warm, bringing Kiara to tears. She hugs Mason afterward, grateful that Ethan's memory now sparks hope for others. Word reaches Mason that Derek, serving life, attempted to incite a riot behind bars, further cementing his dangerous reputation. The warden denies him privileges. He's essentially in permanent isolation. Mason feels no pity, just relief that the cycle of harm is contained. Ms. Zimmerman notifies Mason that any remaining civil suits against Derek are moot, since he has no assets left. The estate is sold off, the proceeds mostly covering legal fees and victim restitution, Kiara's compensation, Mason's costs, etc. The tyrant's empire is irreversibly dismantled. Months later, another letter arrives from Cedric in prison. This time, the tone is more resigned, mentioning he's joined a prison therapy program. Regrets, letting Dad shape me into a bully. He encloses a sketch he drew of them as kids playing in a yard. Maybe a memory that never truly existed, peacefully. Mason, reading it, feels a twinge of sadness. He contemplates writing back a brief note encouraging Cedric's rehabilitation. In the end, he pens a short line. "We can't change the past. Work on yourself. I wish you growth." Bryn, now out of probation, invites Mason for coffee. She shows him a community college ID card, proud that she's passing her paralegal courses. She's volunteering at a battered women's shelter, partly inspired by Kiara's experiences. Mason sees genuine remorse in her eyes, though the memory of her forging documents to sabotage him remains. She quietly says, "I'd like a fresh start. Maybe we'll never be typical siblings, but I hope we find some peace." He nods, offering a small handshake. They part ways on a calmer note, a truce if not deep closeness. Over time, Mason and Talia share more evenings, museum visits, walks in the city, cooking experiments in his condo. She becomes a solace in his hectic life. They keep it relatively private, not wanting hospital gossip, but their synergy is clear, two compassionate souls drawn together after adversity. One serene evening, Talia softly confesses she's fallen in love with him. Mason's eyes glisten. "I never thought I'd trust again after Regina's betrayal. But with you, it feels real, honest." They share a tender embrace. No big fireworks or grand gestures, just a steady acceptance that they've found something genuine. Over brunch, Mason admits to Kiara he's open to marriage again, kids eventually. Kiara beams. That's wonderful, my son. I know Talia is good-hearted. She'll stand by you. Mason nods, heart fluttering at the concept. They talk of naming potential children, Ethan's memory, ensuring cycles of familial harm never repeat. Freed from the no-child clause, from Derek's sabotage, Mason envisions a home filled with warmth, the fatherly love he never received from Derek. The possibility fills him with cautious excitement. The hospital board commends Mason for his unwavering leadership in pediatric oncology. They hold a small ceremony awarding him the Excellence in Patient Care plaque. Dr. Alvarez gives a short speech praising Mason's integrity amid personal turmoil. Staff applauds. Talia watches from the crowd, eyes shining with pride. Mason, accepting the plaque, feels a wave of gratitude. He nearly tears up, recalling how once he was nearly defamed by Derek's manipulations. Now he's recognized publicly for altruism and skill. A sense of triumph swells he overcame every obstacle. The remains from the well are finally laid to rest in a modest cemetery, with Kiara orchestrating a small headstone bearing Ethan's name. Mason and Kiara gather with a handful of close supporters. Bryn attends quietly at the back. The ceremony is simple, a few words about the man Ethan might have been. Kiara places a single rose on the grave, whispering, "I'm sorry. We're free now. May you rest in peace." Mason stands behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. The final puzzle piece of the father he never knew, now honored. Never forgotten. This moment cements Kiara's healing from decades of fear. She's tearful, but relieved, hugging Mason after. They exit the cemetery in silence, but with hearts unburdened. Word leaks that in prison, Derek grows ill, possibly refusing medical care. Some say it's karmic justice. He who tried to sabotage a brilliant doctor ironically now needs medical intervention, but he's too proud. Mason feels no desire to intervene. Occasional letters confirm Cedric tries therapy programs, showing mild improvement. He's still got over a decade behind bars. Mason, uncertain about close contact, remains polite in replies, encouraging him to do better. A form of closure, though they'll never be best friends. On a crisp spring morning, Mason steps outside his condo with Talia. They hold hands, strolling along a quiet path near a lake. He breathes in the fresh air, a sense of profound release enveloping him. No father's tyranny, no toxic siblings controlling his life, no forced marriage. Instead, a new relationship built on honesty, a dedicated career healing patience, the real possibility of fatherhood, and Kiara's support. They pause by the water's edge. Talia leans against him, smiling. Mason looks out across the rippling lake, heart steady. The storms of betrayal and murder conspiracies have passed. He's finally forging a future on his own terms, shaped by the triumph over every deceit. The broken illusions are replaced by a genuine life of compassion, personal integrity, and hopeful love. He squeezes Talia's hand, a quiet promise that they'll continue forward. The sun glints on the water, heralding a bright horizon. His horizon free from the lies of the past, open to a family and a legacy of healing. Hey, listeners of Temptress Cheating Tales!